I saw a lot of things going wrong here, especially in New York City with the movement to defund the police. When I saw that, I just couldn't believe what was happening in the city. And in general, I feel that the direction of this country has been moving towards the very same thing that we as Soviet Jews ran from.
In life, we always encounter challenges. Sometimes those challenges threaten our values. What do you do in those situations? Do you sit down quietly and hope it goes away? Or do you stand up for what you believe in? Meet Ina Vernikov, someone who migrated with her family from Ukraine or back in the Soviet Union, and she built her way up. She created a successful law firm, and then one day she's like, I can't keep on doing this. I have to stand up for my values, to fight anti-Semitism and to make New York a better place. I got the opportunity to sit down with the Councilwoman in her office and talk to her about what she believes in and how she found Orthodox Judaism. This episode is in memory of Shimon David ben Yaakov Shleima, as well as Miriam Sarah Bas Yaakov Moshe. You will hear about the whizzes at BitBean and how they could help take your company to the next level. You will hear about the perfect clothing for your wardrobe, Twillory. You'll hear about my friend Ask Tomar if you want to buy an apartment in Israel. He is the guy to go to. And you'll also hear about the incredible opportunity with the Dream Raffle. Here's my conversation with Ina. I'm Yaakov Langer, and you're listening to Inspiration for the Nation. Thank you, Councilwoman, for doing this. I know you have a busy schedule, and I want to talk to you about a lot of stuff. The anti-Semitism, what it's like in New York, the government, like a lot. But first, can you take us back to your childhood? Where were you born, and what was your childhood like?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me.
Sure.
So I was born in a city called Chernovitz, Ukraine. I think a lot of people know that as a very Jewish town originally. I came with my family to the United States when I was 12 years old. I have two siblings.
What order are you in the family?
I'm the oldest. They're
oldest.
twins.
Okay.
They're 8 years younger than me. I remember very well, even though I was very small, when our family sat around the table trying to decide if we're going to go to America or Israel. And I just remember them deciding that we're definitely going to America. It was during the time when the gates opened. As you know, it was a long, difficult struggle to get Soviet Jewry out of the Soviet Union. There were a lot of actually Orthodox Jews fighting for us here. And it was, as a child, I didn't really understand what it meant to leave the Soviet Union and come live in the United States. But as I was growing up, it became very clear to me that my family left the Soviet Union because of anti-Semitism, because of, different hardships that the Jewish people experienced in the Soviet Union. When we left, it was no longer the Soviet Union. It was sovereign Ukraine. It was in 1996. And my family actually did pretty well overall. My father was a wealthy businessman, but my parents really left for a better life and future for their children.
Was it hard for you to leave, your friends or the life that you were used to there, or it wasn't that good to begin with? Or as a child, it's what you knew it?
No, it was difficult. But I think as a child, it was very exciting to move to another country. We took a bus to Kiev and we took a plane for the first time. So it was really kind of exciting, kind of new. Of course, it was sad to leave my friends. I went to a Jewish school in Ukraine. So I had a lot of friends. I had, kind of like a nice life as a child there. But it was really amazing to grow up here in the United States.
Mm-hmm. And when you guys got here, where did you move in America? And what was that experience like?
So we came straight to Brooklyn. My grandparents were here. They're no longer alive. We all lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. So the five of us, the five of us, stuffed into a little 1-bedroom apartment on Avenue K and Ocean Avenue. I remember it very well. And it was my grandmother, my grandfather, my uncle, myself, my two siblings, and my two parents, all in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Was it like Willy Wonka where like the whole, like the grandparents are all like one bet, you know what I'm talking about? Or
Yeah, no, it was
Kinda like that
really, it
experience.
was kind of wild.
Mhm.
We did that for a while, and then we got our own apartment on around Avenue M in Flatbush. So I grew up in a very Jewish neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that was also, it was a 2-bedroom, but you know, it was
Expanding,
it
that's
was
double the amount of rooms.
it was a real immigrant experience.
Right.
You know, we didn't have much. We accepted public benefits. It was hard, but my parents always taught me, you know, this is America. And there's a concept called the American dream. If you study hard and you work hard, you can do anything you want. So I kind of followed that.
That's so cool. So at what point in your life did you say, I want to be a lawyer?
I think I wanted to be a lawyer from a very young age. And I think it's all about this concept of searching for justice. When I saw something that I thought was unfair or unjust, I always wanted to fix it. I can't pinpoint to a time, but I know that it was from a very young age, especially when I saw anti-Semitism, even from a young age. You know, anything that I thought was not fair, just not just, how could you do this? How could this happen? I have to do something about it. I think maybe I was born with it, but I think that's also a Jewish concept, right? We fight for justice. I think if you look back to all the civil rights movements, to the civil rights movement for the Black community, even to many civil rights movements, you always find Jews at the forefront. And I think that's because we have this innate sense of justice, and we have to kind of follow that.
It's probably also like the fact that like Jewish people always are some form of minority. So we know what it's like to get pushed or bullied around in a way. And we don't like how it feels. So like, why would anyone else like how it feels?
Yes, but I feel like we always stand up for everybody else, but not as much for ourselves. If you think about it, there's never really been a civil rights movement for the Jewish people in the United States.
It always gets so complicated, I think, because like when someone's like anti-Semitic, you always hear both sides, like because all the Jews have the money, and then you hear because the Jews don't have any money. It's like because the Jews they're controlling the government. It's like the Jews don't do enough to help the government. Like which side is it? You know?
And that's not new, right? That's what we've been experiencing forever.
Right.
So I think at this point, we cannot be surprised. You know, we see all the anti-Semitism on the streets here in New York, in America, all over the world, in Europe. We can't be surprised. If we know our history, this is just our fate. And I think every generation, there's going to be some form of persecution, and we have to know what to do with that.
So I want to get into like talking about like the Ukraine war and talk about Israel. But before that, what made you want to get into like the political world? Because you seem like you had a great business, you're a lawyer, you have a big firm, and then all of a sudden you're going into the public eye. And of course, I'm going to even like, I'll not challenge you, but like, of course you want to do good, but like what people always want to do good, but like what extra motivated you? Is there like a story? Is there a life mission that you said, I'm going to go into the public eye?
So that's never really been my goal. I always wanted to be a lawyer. I really enjoyed being a lawyer. Unlike many people, I don't know if you know, a lot of people complain about being lawyers. They don't like it. They hate it. I think a lot of people go into it thinking we're going to make a lot of money, and then many people don't.
Right.
It's hard to
or
make
they
a
like
lot of
see
money.
like a movie and they're like, oh, it's going to be like that.
Oh,
and like
yeah.
fighting in court and then like
Totally.
behind the computer, like doing documents and
Totally.
talking to.
And, I'm not even going to say that I wasn't inspired by some movies too.
Right.
But I wasn't that lawyer. I really enjoyed what I was doing.
What kind of lawyer were you?
I started with general practice, but I did immigration and divorce.
Okay.
So it was a lot of fun. It was great to have my own firm. I had a nice, not a big firm, but I had a nice office. I had a couple of employees on Broadway in the city. I had it for about 8 years. I really enjoyed it. I really liked being a
So
business
why give
owner.
it up? Why give it up?
I saw a lot of things moving in the wrong direction in the city, in this country. And that's just the thing. I've never been someone who just stood on the side. So, you know, in the last couple of years, I felt like I needed to do something. I needed to speak out. I started to speak out. I started being active. For example, about anti-Semitism back in college. I worked a little bit for Assemblyman Heikens. I'm sure a lot of your audience knows him.
He's a quiet guy, no?
Yeah, he just kind of sits at home, you know.
Doesn't really give his opinion on stuff.
So yeah, I mean, I think he's one of the loudest voices, specifically on anti-Semitism, that we have in this country. Sure. He's been a big role model to me. I actually tried to get a job in his office way before, a long time ago. I had an interview and got rejected. And then, you know, fate had it that we got together, and I ended up working for him for a little bit. And then obviously he ended up supporting my candidacy for office. But I saw a lot of things going wrong here, especially in New York City with the movement to defund the police. When I saw that, I just couldn't believe what was happening in the city. And in general, I feel that the direction of this country has been moving towards the very same thing that we as Soviet Jews ran from, which is like a more socialist, communist ideology that we really, you know, we really escaped and we really despise, because we know how it felt back in the Soviet Union to be led by a communist government, the government overreach. I think that's why so many Soviet Jews were anti-mandates. You know, this country's been becoming more anti-capitalist. There's a lot of anti-Semitism, anti-Israel sentiment. And, you know, this is what immigrants escaped. So I felt like as an immigrant who ran away from that, I can have a voice and I can stand up for people who can't.
That's very powerful. We'll be right back this week's episode, but we've gotten so many people telling us about how excited they are that they might win the apartment in Yerushalayim. Shmuel, could you please tell us about the amazing Dream Raffle?
Sure. Thanks again, Yaakov. Always a pleasure to be here. This is the last chance, guys, because the drawing will be held on Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet. That's March 11th. We were supposed to have the raffle already at the beginning of the year, but due to the war, we put everything on hold, obviously. So it's March 11th. That's Rosh Chodesh Adar Bet. Already it's in the spirit of Purim. And just simply go to thedreamraffle.com and you can purchase a ticket, get 2 for 1, because we love you guys here in Living L'Chaim, 2 for 1. And also use the coupon code LL, as in Living L'Chaim, and take $10 off. And all the money goes to tremendous, tremendous causes. For example, we're helping the Kitat Konenut, the civilian response teams that are so important. We see what happened on October 7th until the army got there. What kept the tragedy from being much worse? These civilian security teams. And they're calling me literally every day. They need bulletproof vests and they need helmets and all these machshirei kesher, these walkie-talkies and so on, and we're helping them. And also we're helping farmers rebuild after the terrible tragedy. We're helping search and rescue, Sderot ambulance, bulletproof ambulance. This is what we're doing. Also, we're one of the biggest donors to lone soldiers. I know that's a big cause that a lot of people love to support. All this from the Dream Raffle.
I love it because you have the opportunity to win a beautiful, gorgeous apartment in the heart of Yerushalayim. But more than that, no matter what, you're guaranteed to be helping Am Yisrael out. And we know how much need there is for help. It's the tragedy, you know, hopefully we're past it, but the results of it is still living on, and we still need to always be protected for what's going to happen. And people like you and the supporters and the volunteers, what you guys are doing is literally changing lives. So thank you.
Thank you. Baruch Hashem, we're doing very important work. And what's good is because nobody on Am Yisrael Chai is on payroll. The money goes to, obviously there's marketing costs involved in the raffle and running the raffle, but the 100% of the net proceeds goes to the causes that I just mentioned. So go to thedreamraffle.com. This is the last chance, people. Coupon code LL, as in Living L'Chaim, gets you $10 off. 1+1, last chance for this year's 6th Dream Raffle, thedreamraffle.com.
Thank you very much, Shmuel. And everyone, please go there, support them, support us, and go ahead and buy yourself.
Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you. The past few years probably has been more difficult for you because what's going on in Ukraine, and then obviously after October 7th, what's going on in Israel. What has been your relationship to, I guess, both those wars?
So I was the first member of the city council to stand up and speak out against the war in Ukraine. Literally the night it happened, the next morning we had a stated meeting. We have those twice a month in the city council. And, I didn't really check who's going to think what. I just thought it was the right thing to do to stand up for Ukraine. And not to even get political. I don't think it's so political for me. I think it's more like this is the right thing to do. There's a bad guy who is a tyrant, who is a war criminal, who's killing innocent people, and you have to stand up for innocent people that are getting killed. And that's not to say that we don't have hard feelings about Ukraine, because 35,000 Jews were murdered in the Babi Yar. And I mentioned all of that in my speech. I passed a resolution in the city council unanimously to express our support for Ukraine. So we did actually a lot. We set up a center in Chabad around here in this neighborhood with a Chabad rabbi. We sent 300 boxes of aid to Ukraine. We try to do our best to help them as much as we could. We also, we have people that came here, refugees that needed help. So we connected them with services. We try to do our best. We don't hear that much about Ukraine anymore in the news.
Right.
I think people have a little bit of a fatigue hearing about what's happening there. And I now the main focus is, at least for us, is on Israel and what's happening there. And obviously, very hard to watch what happened on October 7th.
Yeah, it's been rough. And sadly, I kind of feel like, still there's so many hostages, but that fatigue that people felt with Ukraine or feel with Ukraine, I just from our YouTube channel, like I see there's some form of fatigue with Israel. And it's like, it's so sad because like, hey, this is the same with you. Like it's still going on. There's still people in pain, people suffering, people trapped, people don't know what's going to be with the next day. And like, I don't know. It's just sad that happens.
I think that happens all the time. And I think the more time that passes, the more fatigue people get. And we're kind of far away from it, right? Like everyone is busy with their lives. And I think, look, there are people who try the best they can to do whatever they can to help the situation. But really, at the end of the day, what can we really do from here other than speak out, go to press conferences, go to rallies, call for the government to do everything they could? At the end of the day, we're relying on the Israeli government to get them out.
Right. Do you feel that given that you're an immigrant, maybe the fact that you're a woman, that people have undermined you and your capabilities throughout your life?
I get asked that question a lot. Obviously, there were times, but I don't really pay so much attention to that. I think that when you work hard and you do what's right and you stand up for the things that matter to you, I think that at the end of the day, you end up on the right side of things.
That's very beautiful. What's, I guess, your relationship with when it comes to like Judaism? And you've been in like Brooklyn for so long. I personally grew up in I-26, and like you're steeped in like a super like Orthodox community. Like, how's it been like for you?
So my parents, when we came here, my parents were very afraid that I'm going to go to public school and start like doing drugs and paint my hair green. Right. So they were very conservative coming from where we came from.
Right.
So that's the reason they were like, oh, we're going to place her in a yeshiva. So I went to this yeshiva that was run by ultra-Orthodox Jews, but it was for Soviet immigrants. So it was very interesting. I spoke zero English when I came. But that's really where I picked up my Judaism. I had a teacher that I was pretty close to, and she she wanted me to keep Shabbos. So I didn't keep anything. And my parents are pretty anti-religious. They still are, especially on my mom's side. So in my family, it was not taken to so well.
Right.
And
they're like, oh, we should put in public school, get our green here. At least
there was that conversation.
Really? Wow.
Oh yeah, definitely. At some point,
Can you explain for someone who doesn't know, like why would they be so against it coming from the place that they're from? Like what was going on?
I think it was the impact of communism because it was very anti-God. You couldn't have a religion or a God that you believed in because your God was communism. So anyone that was anti-God, they were very against. So it really created, communism, I think, really kind of created like this gap, this hole when it comes to Soviet Jewry. And thankfully, a lot of them, did tshuva, or they went back to their roots, right? Like here in America, there's a lot of, thankfully, there's RAGE, Russian American Jewish Experience. There's yeshivas, there are organizations that work on making sure that Jewish kids understand their Jewish identity and that they love it and that they love Israel and that maybe even they observe things and they go back to their roots. So that's, I think, a wonderful thing. And I have a lot of friends who became observant and have beautiful Jewish families now. But it's not easy, especially when you're not married. So it's not easy, but it was very exciting to me when I was starting to observe Shabbat. If you want, I could share with you how it started, but I had a teacher who she really wanted me to keep Shabbat. And she told me, listen, just do candles, light candles. Cause I think I was like 16 years old. She said, just light candles, make Kiddush, and then go out, do your thing. That's what I did. And then I started kind of feeling awkward about it. So I started doing Saturday too. But then I ended up being suspended. I was a big troublemaker in school. I ended up being suspended. And my punishment was to go to a teacher's house for Shabbat. And I thought I was going to be like punished, like sitting in a basement all day.
Right, like
but
Amish, like no electricity.
No, it was so awesome. It was such an awesome experience. They were so nice to me. They gave me a beautiful room with like nosh and like it was just amazing. So I started observing Shabbat back then.
Wow. And yeah, what was the pushback from your parents at that point when you're like, I guess, sure that you want to keep Shabbos, but they're like, I guess maybe, I don't know if it's trauma coming up for them or whatever background that they have. They're like, no.
I mean, I think they just feel like you're brainwashed and it's like, oh my God, my child is getting brainwashed. So it's also, they're used to a certain lifestyle and this is a very different lifestyle that they're not used to and they're not attracted to. So
we'll be right back to my conversation with the councilwoman, and my brother's making fun of me with the sand motions if you're watching this. But first, we're going to tell you about the power of BitBean.
Okay, so BitBean helps businesses with software. But what does that mean, right? If you walk into a coffee shop, you know you can buy a coffee.
Yeah.
If you walk into a bicycle shop, they sell bicycles.
Sometimes coffee also.
So why is BitBean so successful? It's not because they have the easiest to understand business, but once you get it, you understand.
Ooh.
So I love their target persona. Business owners with sizable businesses likely using multiple pieces of enterprise-grade software that are often disjointed and create limitations in their business. It's a mouthful, but think about it.
Definitely a mouthful.
Businesses out there are using a variety of software pieces, right? Things that are off the shelf. If you go to a website that allows you to manage your customers and they have some features, that's fine. But as you grow, you need custom solutions. You need it to do things so that you don't have to manually piece it all together, right? Your business is unique, so the software has to be unique.
Is that why customers are called customers? Because they're each custom?
Customizationers. I don't know.
But
maybe.
For BitBean's purposes,
it is.
It is. Because they look at customers like custom. We have to make sure that they get what they need in order to build their business.
And they understand you. They'll sit down with you. You can't just say, hey, I want to have a demo meeting. What they do is very high level. So they'll sit down with you after they approve and think that they can help your business. You communicate with them back and forth, like I'm doing with you now, but I'm just doing all the talking. And they listen, and then they have ideas of what your software should look like. So if you're a small to medium-sized business, maybe even a very large business, and you need solutions, like we spoke about the healthcare business. Sure. There are so many different types of businesses that are using software, managing your customers, your clients, features. Some of it's public facing, apps, things of that nature. It is the one-stop shop for your software pop. And I had to have it rhyme, but yeah.
I was going to say that they're great and you should meet the folks there. And if you haven't reached out to BitBean, of course, go to their website, bitbean.com. And one of the companies that I was thinking they're great, but I'm sure they would be even better if they spoke to the folks at BitBean.
Oh.
Twillory. And that gets us into our next ad.
That is a terrible segue.
So imagine that was our business model. We just connect all the people who are
but only if you advertise with us.
Yeah.
I mean, they're a clothing company, but I imagine they do have quite a bit of customer relationship tools on the back end. I don't know which ones they're using, but they're using some level of software as much as they are in the business of fabric.
That's true. Let's talk about Twillory for a second. Have you tried out their air suit?
Yes.
How would you describe, for someone who has not worn the air suit, what is the experience like?
Light, stretchy, and comfortable.
Yeah, but someone watching is like, that's great, but I'm not going to get $18 off. Could they still get $18 off?
Yes. Promo code INSPIRE.
Yes. Does it hurt you to say that?
It does, because I have my own promo code. But trust me, the thousands of people who have used that promo code, it gets worn out, the promo code. So the INSPIRE code is very fresh.
We still have people who haven't used it. A bunch of you have used it, but it's not going to be around for so much longer. So if you haven't yet experienced the air suit, if you want to basically teach yourself how you've been wearing suits wrong your entire life with experiencing the magic of the air suit. It's not for every occasion, but for the occasions that you need a lighter suit, it is
spring,
perfect.
Spring
is
summer.
springing up. Summer's summering up. So
it's hot. It's it's very light. It's very light.
It breathes.
It breathes. No, even when you hold it up to a certain light, you can see.
You see through it.
Yeah, you could see through it.
But when it's on, you don't.
No. So that's kind of cool. It comes in many different colors.
Yeah.
3 different sizes: long, short, regular. I think 12 colors.
There's a lot. I saw a burgundy one.
And also there's different materials. So like fabric designs. So it's not just colors that can be.
Right. There's a lot of mixes and matches and different variants you can get. If you haven't gotten the air suit, go to Twillory.com, get $18 off with the code word INSPIRE. Now back to this week's episode conversation. I was going to convo episode.
I got it. Back to this week's episode.
Thanks. You mentioned it before, being, I guess, single, and I would not consider you older at all, but you're not 20 years old. So how has that been like for you? And if it's too personal, I didn't even think we were going to go there, but
it's tough because I think that this lifestyle is very much family oriented. And,
right.
I think I think the idea is that you do this with a family. So I think that's just harder for singles because it's not like you're 17 and you're going for sleepovers all the time.
Right.
That's what we used to do, Shabbaton, sleepovers. So it's a little harder, but it's still a very beautiful thing. And, I can't complain. I have 3 shuls around my house, so I really should be going more.
Wow, that's really nice. That's really cool. I like to ask guests if they have a favorite mitzvah. What is that favorite mitzvah out of the 613?
I would say it's lighting Shabbat candles.
Okay. You're saying from then, it's funny because it was kind of like a hook for you. Okay, just light the candles. And now, why is it so special to you?
I think it's like a time when everything stops and the crazy life, especially that I have now and that I've had in the last couple of years, all of that just stops and you go into a different mode of self-reflection and rest. And it's whatever happened this week, just that's happened this week. Now we're in a spiritual time.
It's I think I'm 31, so I don't remember. I've always heard, we grew up obviously knew about the Holocaust and what went on in Europe, it was crazy, and I always knew it, and none of us ever we all knew it, like that was for sure. But like even my grandfather, like we saw it from a distance. And I personally, myself, I've never really, here and there, little anti-Semitism, but nothing like significant. And now maybe it's with social media, maybe it's just the way the world is now. There's, especially in New York, there's so much anti-Semitism. How do you try to, I guess, in your position, try to fight that?
Well, that's the second reason why I stepped into these shoes, why I ran for office. So I feel like I'm in a great place to do something about it. And I'll be honest, what shocks me a lot is how afraid people are to speak out. And I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I've seen a lot of that. And it's really bad. It's not good that Jews are so afraid to make a complaint, to say something, to express something publicly, to post, especially students in school. It's been really tough dealing with that, because just to get one of these victims, I don't like to call us victims, but there are victims in these situations. It's been really tough to get them to come out and say something publicly. And the very few that we see, that we have, those people are basically heroes because everyone else is just so afraid. But I try to do my part. My motto is not to be afraid. That's the way I fight anti-Semitism, is I'm not afraid of these people. I'll go out, I'll stand up, I'll speak out, I'll write letters. And a lot of times people see it as controversial, or people see me as aggressive. I don't really care. I didn't step into this because I needed a job. I didn't need a job. I needed to stand up for my community. That was a big part of it. So I think that not being afraid is a big, big part of fighting anti-Semitism.
That's very powerful. Out of anyone who ever lived, it could be someone you personally knew, it could be someone from the Torah, it could be anyone. If you could sit down for an hour with someone who's no longer with us, who would that person be?
Well, I can tell you someone who is still with us.
Oh, okay. I don't know if I ever got that.
No, but I think that, honestly, I think it would be Meir Kahane.
Interesting. Okay, why?
Yeah.
Why him?
I know that there was, a lot of controversy surrounding JDL, especially towards the end, but I would love to have a conversation with him and personally hear more from him, because I think that he was a very important figure in in the movement for civil rights, for Jewish civil rights. Mm. And I don't know if there was another one really like him who was so unafraid. I hear him speak, and a lot of the things that he says are very inspiring to me. And again, I know there was a lot with JDL towards the end, and obviously I don't support starting aggression, but we do have to be very proactive in defending ourselves. And I think that he was very good at that.
We'll be right back to this week's episode. But first, Tomar, you get a lot of calls with people asking you questions about real estate in Israel. Where's like the hottest places that people are looking to buy an apartment?
I tell you what, the hottest place, everybody wants to be on top of the kotel, in the crevice.
Okay.
They're like, we want the kotel. And by the way, we have $1 million. And we want an apartment that is the size of a mansion that you would find probably in Muncie or some other Tom's River. That is unfortunately not the case. But a guy who's actually realistic and knows that he wants to either have a vacation home where he comes to visit once in a while, or they want to have a place to live in. So then you got to be realistic and figure out, okay, in Yerushalayim, Rechavia, Talbia, or the Mamila, that area, it's great. It's a good vibe. People want to be there. I want to be there, especially Sukkot. Everybody's there on Sukkot. So
I always say every Yontif is just magnified there. Sukkot, Hanukkah, Purim. It's not bad in America, but there's nothing like it.
There's no Israel. Better feeling than being in Israel during the holiday season, and the Rova and those places. So I've maintained connections and created new connections with developers, with private sellers. So we've got inventory in all these areas. And not only that, we have already people that started calling me, hey, I want to sell an apartment. I don't want to buy in another area, So Baruch Hashem, we created that incredible network.
Right. Yeah.
Where we could sell. But I have apartments in new developments, old developments, ready to move into, or things that are in Yupatsville, like Arad, in Tveria, Tzfat, different areas up in the north near Akko. Beautiful place, by the way, Akko. So whether you're just buying to move in or you're just buying to have a place where you could come and call it home, I have the place for you.
I think that's very beautiful. And I also think that sometimes, like, I'm not saying all, but sometimes when you're trying to deal with like Israeli agents, like they're upset and they're always in a rush. And I think it is a breeze to talk to you just in general. And I think when people are calling with these questions, they want someone who's going to hear them out and just help them understand the reality of it. And I think you did a good job at that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I try to buffer that Israeli attitude where they will come to you and tell you, no, you can't come, you can't do this, can't do that. And I'm like, guys, just relax. Let me handle the transaction. I will make sure that they're happy. The American needs to be pampered. It's just the nature of it. They don't want to have to deal with the bureaucracy. There's a lot of stuff going on. You would not want to know what's going on, but I buffer that out for you.
Beautiful. Okay, so asktomar.com, the link in the show notes. If you have any real estate questions, if you even have a Havamina to buy something in Israel, go ahead and give Tomar a call today. I'm going to end off with this question. It could be a time in your life, or it could be a story that you read or a story that you heard. What's a story that inspires you, that gives you strength?
I can't think of one from like someone else's perspective or like another story, but I could tell you a story that really encouraged me.
Sure.
So when I was in law school, they had set the graduation for a Saturday, and I was not going to let that go. I went to law school in Jacksonville, Florida, where I think they barely know like what a Jew is.
Right.
And there were probably about, I would say like 6 Orthodox Jews in my law school. So I decided to embark on this journey to make sure that I don't graduate on Saturday. And I wanted to kind of pave the pathway for any other Orthodox Jews in that law school or in that area in Florida, for them not to have to deal with that, because everybody wants to see their kids graduate.
Right.
So I started this big fight with them, and they told me they're never going to move it because it was set to be in like this huge arena, kind of like the Madison Square Garden, and they had the date set and everything. And I just by myself started this fight with them. And I went to this professor who was an evangelical who agreed to help me. He was a 7-day Adventist. Mm-hmm. They also observed the Sabbath very closely to us. And it was a long journey because they kept telling me no. And then I ended up graduating on Sunday. So that was a pretty cool story.
That is pretty cool. You shifted that. And did they shift it like the next year? Was it on Sunday or?
It wasn't on Sunday. It wasn't on Saturday that year. And it wasn't on Saturday the year after.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's huge.
I don't think they had it on a Saturday at any point after that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. It's funny. I got a few suggestions for people saying that I should interview you, obviously for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons why someone's like trying to they don't need to convince me, but they're trying to convince me why. And like I saw it on our website suggestion, they compare you to Queen Esther. They're like, you have this person that is, you're not from this country, and like all of a sudden you're in a position where you can make an influence. And maybe people are like, just there's so many things going on, but like you're just standing your ground, you're doing your thing. Like, okay, if I have to go to speak Achashverosh, okay, it is. If it's scary, it is what it is. I'm just going to go. I'm going to do it. It's the right thing. And so just thought that's a cool comparison to say.
So my Hebrew name is Esther.
Okay. Maybe that's part of why
So I hope I can live up to her. She is obviously a figure that really inspires me. And we learned the Megillah Esther a lot. I've studied it a lot. And obviously thank you.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And I see it. Okay. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for watching this week's episode. If you got this far on YouTube, go ahead and leave the word proud, Proud, whether you're a proud Jew, you're proud to support Jews. We want to see you stand up for what you believe in. I mean, it's behind your keyboard, but at least that. And let us know that you got this far in the episode. I didn't have the chance to speak about everything with Ina, but even lately in the news, you know, with the people just attacking her because she's Jewish, we all know like the games that the anti-Semites play. It is what it is. We're not going to back down. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and check out our friends at BitBean. Go get your $18 off at Twillory with the code word INSPIRE. Go ahead and get the Dream Raffle tickets. Use our code, links down below. And if you haven't given Tomer a call, give him a call. And actually, I don't know if he's going to kill me for saying this surprise. Tomer is actually planning this entire trip to Israel around Lag BaOmer time, where you'll hear a lot more about it as time goes on here. If you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and share it with someone who wants to feel empowered to be a proud Jew or a proud person who stands with Jews. And also, we have a program that we haven't really spoken about really almost ever, where if you hear me every episode talking about Shimon David ben Yaakov Shlomo, Miriam Sarabas Yaakov Moshe, but if you want to dedicate an episode of any of the Living L'Chaim shows to a loved one, or maybe a refuah shalema, you want the schusim that are coming in through the incredible people that we have, you can go ahead and go to our website. I think it's called livingchaim.com/dedicate, where you could dedicate an episode and obviously help continue the work that we do here, and also help your relative or loved one's neshama have an aliyah or refuah shalema or whatever it is. Till next time, this nation is filled with inspiration. L'chaim.
Living L'Chaim.